Okay, good morning to everyone. This is our budget work session. Commissioner Fithian is out ill today and will not be attending the meeting, but he very well may be watching. And as you know, our meetings are usually recorded, or always recorded, and I'm sure he'll catch up when he has an opportunity. So first on the agenda this morning is John from the Kent Cultural Alliance.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you all?
All right, you?
Good. So thank you. Good morning. My name is John Schratweiser. I'm the director of the Kent Cultural Alliance. We are Kent County's designated arts council. And I want to start, of course, by saying thank you for your continued support of the work of the Arts Council. We are in the later part of our first 50 years of serving the county of Kent and the people of Kent County, and we're excited about the future and where we're going. In the fiscal year 2025, we were very fortunate to see increases in funding at all levels of government, including our grant from the National Endowment for the Arts, our grant from the Maryland State Arts Council, and our grant from Kent County. And so we are grateful to you for that. It has allowed us to have a record-breaking year in the grant making, and that is the money that gets redistributed to people and organizations around Kent County. In fiscal year 2025, we have granted more than $120,000 to arts organizations, community organizations, and independent artists. In fact, this year, we also set a record for our independent artist grants, giving 56 grants totaling $28,000 to artists who are living and working in Kent County. And that's money that they are using to essentially dump right back into the economy. They're buying materials, they're using it for studio space, they're using it for promotion and website, and for equipment to purchase to better make their work available to the general public. We've also been able to invest an additional $15,000 into the Kent County Public Schools through our own fundraising and through some of our grant making from Maryland State Arts Council funds. While I'm not able to speak to it yet, I am going to drop the little exciting carrot that in FY 2026, we're going to be announcing a brand new initiative that is going to be created to support ongoing additional investment in Kent County Public Schools. I've been talking directly with Dr. McComas and Gina Jacomowitz. We have received a bequest that is going to make this possible, and so there'll be more announcement about that probably in September. Our Visiting Artist Residency Program had launched last year in 2024 and is now in its second year, and we are just about to finish our first session. I hope that if you're around town on First Friday, you'll be able to join us. We have the opening of the exhibit of this first session of resident artists. The artists are from New York, Florida, and Venice, Italy, and they've been working on the theme of food. And for what that means for us is the Kent Cultural Alliance and all of its programming essentially focuses on using the arts to help people engage in issues and themes and conversations that might be harder to access. So we've chosen this theme of food to look at what the food cycles look like in Kent County and here on the Eastern Shore. And that includes where it's being grown, how it's being delivered, how it's being processed, if it's being used in local restaurants and things. So this year we chose a particular group of folks for the food theme, starting with Modern Stone Age Kitchen in downtown Chestertown, and then the people that are providing them the raw materials for their food. So we're working with Red Acres Hydroponics, we're working with Crow Vineyard and Farm, we're working with Nice Farm Creamery in Caroline County, and also the Wildly Native Flower Farm here in Kent County. The artists have also been working with folks at the Kent County Food Pantry, Menary's Dream Alliance, and the Kent County Historical Society, looking at history of food in the area. So the exhibit is going to feature a diverse group of work, photography, installation art, pastels, that hopefully tell a little bit of the conversation of the story of food in Kent County. It's been great that the artists have been able to visit the schools. Our pastel artist from Venice did a 90-minute workshop with a joint series of classes at Kent County High School, both Mrs. Norris and Mrs. Spencer's art classes. And then our photographer artist from New York has actually been working with John Keller in the food and beverage program, working with the students on food photography. These are students who are going into the restaurant business. They're working on a food truck project right now. And so she's been helping them sort of document that process and also know more about how to promote their work. It's really exciting to see our artists work directly with Kent County students. The annual events at Kent County, Kent Cultural Alliance continue. Last year we had our second annual Hispanic Heritage Month celebration from September 15th to October 15th and saw our largest crowds yet. We were able to do programming in other parts of the county, not just downtown Chestertown. We had a great event in Millington in partnership with La Cascada restaurant there. We're also doing our Poetry Festival, which just concluded its 16th annual year. We added a new event to the Poetry Festival this year, and we're able to feature the newly appointed Poet Laureate of the state of Maryland, appointed by Governor Moore. Her name is Lady Breon. She's a phenomenal spoken word artist, and she had the crowd, she had a fantastic crowd, and she had them on their feet. And we continue to do one-off events, such as the presentation last fall at Kent County High School, and again at the Garfield Center for the Arts, of a play called Becoming Othello, A Black Girl's Journey. And it's an autobiographical play written and performed by the woman who founded the Harlem Shakespeare Festival to create opportunities for artists of color in classical Shakespeare. The reach of KCA is felt far and wide across Kent County. We're using the arts to bring people together around issues that are important to Kent County residents. We look forward to jumping into FY 2026 as we're about to elect some new board members and new officers of the board, create a new strategic plan for the future of KCA, and at long last, add yet another job in the arts to Kent County's payroll, creating one more arts economy job here locally. So I thank you very much for your support, ask for that continued support in our request for FY 2026. And also just to say, if you need something else and we come to mind, don't hesitate to ask.
Thank you.
Well, I would like to thank you and your group for everything that you do for our county, especially our students. And I just want to make a public announcement on behalf of Dr. McComas here that at 6:30 tonight, starting tonight, there will be an art exhibit at our Kent County High School with some beautiful work of our students. So, and it's my understanding you're looking to, or you're asking for an appropriation of $15,000.
That's correct.
Okay. We will see what we can do.
I appreciate that. I understand the battle that you're up against.
We have some tough times here.
I know it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for what you do.
Yes, very, very well done.
Next on the agenda is Mr. Bill Webb, the health officer, and Emily McCoy, the administrator for the Kent County Health Department. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. I would like to thank you, the commissioners, for the opportunity to brief you on our budget submission for FY 2026. This year, we are requesting an increase over last year. Our request for FY 26 is, in a nutshell, we are asking for the required match from Comar, in addition to the rent that we pay for our space on Lynchburg Street, and that represents, I think, about a 15% increase from last year. The amount that we're requesting for FY 26 is $1,267,000 $989. And that, I believe that was broken down in our formal request. The increase this year is a reflection of, in FY24 and FY25, the Health Department and Public Health Services saw a significant increase in public health funding from the state, which necessitated a reciprocal county match that the county was not really prepared. It was a significant increase for the county. And one of the tools that we used to help offset, that specific increase was we agreed to cover the rent for the building. We also agreed to, help pay for some of the mental health services in the detention center, and also help subsidize the effort the county does at mosquito spraying, because mosquitoes are a significant vector for communicable diseases, and that certainly is, in the wheelhouse of the health department. The issue is that in FY25, we had to take a 10.7% cut in core funding from the state. Our ability to, continue with all of those support services, the subsidies that we have provided, we have not been able to do that. And so this year, we are asking the commissioners to once again pick up the expense that's involved with our rent for the building on Lynchburg Street. But other than that, it is a continuation of our funding request for the previous year. We're asking for the COMAR mandated match plus the rental, the rental fees. So anything?
No, you covered it, Mr. Webb.
Okay.
Mr. Webb, I was looking for where it's identified here for your rent. The rent, $171,250.
Correct.
And the county government is required to basically house the health department. So it was an anomaly for, was it 1 year or 2 years you covered the
We did it
rent?
for 2 years.
For 2 years. They offered to take that out of their allocation.
So has the rent gone up recently, or is it pretty much status quo, or
It goes up on a 3% per annum basis.
3%? And it looks like, according to your correspondence here, that during the FY26 budget cycle, that you're maybe suggesting that the county invoice, if I'm reading this right, for the mosquito control, and of course, the support of the school health program. Is that right?
So for the school health program this year, there was a discussion with Dr. McComas that I guess all of the funding was going to come straight from the school board. This year, the allocation, we were just going to contribute to the mental health services at the detention center as well as the mosquito control.
Okay. Anything else, Albert?
No.
I will also mention that there is significant discussion about core funding and county matches at the, in the state legislature. There was a specific line item, several line items in the joint chairman's report this year involving core funding for local health departments. I think one of the concerns is that the increase in funding, is they want to limit that amount to the core services and not to salaries and increments and, payroll-related expenses. And that is being discussed, and that, potentially will impact FY '27, but that's not this year, but just want to put that on your radar screen, that is a discussion that's in the works.
I'm sure it is. I'm sure the state's not going to do anything to help us next year, would be my guess.
This would help you, Commissioner.
Yeah.
Instead of the match being off of 2.6 million, it would probably only be 800,000 that your match would be required, at least from us.
Okay.
So hopefully,
Well, we don't know for sure, this is, Kent County is benefits that we have, every county, the match requirement percentage is different.
Right.
And Kent County has the sixth lowest match percentage in the state, and there are other counties that when the significant increase in FY '24 was recorded, that was a substantial, requirement the counties match that, and this is sort of an effort to help control unexpected expenses from, for the county, and this is, part of the ongoing dialogue of, obviously, state services, county services, how do we, fairly fund those things, and it doesn't involve necessarily the school system, but it's very similar. So, anyway, that's not really part of this budget request, but it is an ongoing discussion that I wanted to mention.
Well, we appreciate that because we all have to look down the road and try to figure out what's coming at us. So hopefully some good things will happen.
Well, the health department has really tried in the last 2 years to, partner with the county, to help the financial impact of these things, and it's, local health departments, and the first word in that is local, and, you are our leaders here, and trying to work for the betterment of Kent County. We're all trying to do that, and getting hit with a huge bill is not, obviously it's good for public health as we, work on improving, the status of our community, but moving the pieces around, at least on a budget, is often very difficult, and have to respect your limited resources and what you have. So, it's always an honor to serve, here in Kent County, and thank you for the time today.
Thank you.
Well,
We
we
appreciate
thank you.
everything you've done and are doing as well.
The partnership that I've witnessed since I've been sitting up here, is very, very much appreciated.
Absolutely.
So, as we've already said, we're in a tough spot here with minimal funding. So, and the state's in pretty bad shape itself. So,
True.
but we have an obligation, and we're going to meet that obligation.
Yeah.
So, anything else? All right. Well,
Thank
thank
you.
you for your time today.
thank you.
Thank you.
It was 17%.
Next on the agenda will be Richard from the Executive Director of Animal Care Shelter. Good morning.
Good morning. I think you've been thanked enough by the preceding speakers, so,
But that doesn't stop you from.
well, I'm actually, Commissioner Nickerson, I do want, before I have my animal shelter hat on, I do other things in the county and that bring me in touch with assessments, planning and zoning a lot, the finance office, the health department. And the quality of service from the rank and file employees is always helpful, polite, professional. And I assume you get some complaints over the course of the year, but let he without sin cast the first stone. My clients and our personal experience with Kent County staff is really, so I want to thank them.
Absolutely, yeah, I concur,
yeah.
absolutely, yeah.
And why am I here? So we submitted our budget. Is this for our budget and the vehicles?
Yes.
Okay. So on time, probably for the first time in my 5 years, I think in March, early March, I submitted our budget. And I'll repeat that I am a fiscal conservative, a social progressive. Don't hold that against me. But I really take fiscal management seriously. And we, of course, we're up against it. We're up against it because for 100 years, most of our larger donors are as old as the organization. That thins out. But we've had really great progress. And my eye on the ball is really preparing for me not being around. I would like to have my third retirement within the next year or two. And what does that challenge me to do? It's number one, fiscal management, because our animal care, I can't do a thing to improve the work of our staff. They literally take sick animals home with them. We have really good quality care, especially in the new shelter. My focus has been on developing a management team so that it is not an organization run by the executive director. And we have made substantial progress. No turnover for 3-4 years with middle management and senior management. The other thing that I am happy to report is our former boards, and I joined as a board member 12 years ago. I was the youngest board member at the time, at 28. And there were 15 board members. We now have 7. And because of this, who is going to engage in the animal shelter for the next 10, 20, 30, 40 years? So our board of 7, and you all know them, are in their 30s, their 40s, maybe the oldest being 50. I am not being an ageist. I'm being a realist, that we need that generation, those generations, to be engaged. The other focus for last year, starting last year, and now heavily this year, is going to be attracting our residents, our community members who are in their 20s and 30s and 40s, who can afford $25 or $50 in supporting the shelter. And we're crafting events that attract that audience. The $150 gala ticket has a limited audience. So if you're in the hood, Friday night we are having our first tented event on our new shelter property called Wolf Stock 2025. 4 bands, 4 food trucks. A few people will be rowdy. We did alert the sheriff's department. And there's another department. They were really great when we reached out a month or 2 ago.
We really got a great sheriff now.
Pardon me?
We really have a great sheriff now.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I only met him once.
Never remember.
Am I saying something wrong? I'm just speaking. I'm a citizen. So and in August, we always have this Clear the Shelter Day. It's a national event, you know, you get a whole bunch of people to adopt animals in one day. This year, we're doing a family day, along with Clear the Shelter, for the purpose of bringing all the families of Kent County with their children. I'll be off that day, but we are going to have all that stuff, the dunk tank. I am not going to ask commissioners to volunteer to be in the dunk tank. However, we are going to have an axe throw game, and I may
There's your man.
I may ask your involvement with that. So I do think we have our eye on the future. We're navigating the past. The biggest fiscal challenge, you would say, is labor. We're doing okay with labor. I mean, we're fully staffed. The lower paying jobs turn over a lot. The biggest challenge is competing with Queen Anne's County salaries and benefits package. For example, I have a wonderful mid-manager person who is probably getting $43,000, $44,000 wearing two or three hats, loves it, going nowhere. But of course, she reminded me that Queen Anne's is for the same position with 3 direct reports with a minimum salary of $56,000. So I really want to build the financial strength of our organization over the next couple of years, because Kent County's never going to be able to compete with Queen Anne County budget. I think, as I've said in the past, our county is fortunate that 60-some years ago, some citizens formed a nonprofit. And I take that serious. So I have my eye on that ball. Would welcome any questions of our budget submission. And then this year, unfortunately, historically, the county has provided 2 vehicles, at least since 1990-something. And in 2013 or 2012 and 2014, the county did it, and we are in desperate need. I have, at the request of Mrs. Heller, provide you with our illustrious fleet. I am grateful for the 2 animal control officers that we have who actually know how to do car maintenance and truck maintenance and whatnot. At least one needs to be replaced, I guess last November, December, when I first reached out to the county. The other one is on its last wheels as well. And I've had the privilege, I haven't met him, but I've worked with Dan Matson. Hi, Dan. Hey. And I just got the cost here, and I can't make heads or tails out of it, but we need 2 new vehicles. I think we can wait until later this year or early next year for a second one. In November, when I reached out to, I guess, Mrs. Heller, I had $24,000 to put towards it, and I no longer have that $24,000 because of operating costs. And one final comment. since John at the Alliance, Art Alliance, who does an incredible job, we too can't reveal all the details, but the largest explosive expense for our shelter is shelter medicine. We went from, I'd say 4 years ago, we were spending 60,000, 70,000 with all the local vets. Now the local vets can't do it all, so we're down to like one vet and maybe 1.25 of our local vets do our business. This year we will exceed $200,000 in medical care. That's spay, neutering, medication, etc. Unsustainable. You're not going to be able to pay for it. We're not going to be able to pay for it at that amount of money. So in the last month, 3 area executive directors of animal shelters have begun to meet, and we are collaborating. And I believe that at least 2, and I'm hoping all 3, will officially collaborate in an agreement where we hire a vet full-time with county benefits. Don't worry, not Kent County. We have a county who would be willing to consider if there was 1 or 2 other shelters who would have enough business. Well, you don't spend $200,000 if you don't have enough business. So we could actually use a vet 2 days a week, 3 half days a week. We have a wonderful medical facility that we have not yet used in its entirety. So my goal is definitely before our fiscal year begins, but within the next month, hammer out that agreement. And in fact, you are the first to know that. My board that meets next week does not know, so keep that between us until I have the chance to set the stage. And I'm sure they're not watching. Nah, they're not watching. They're busy.
Millions and millions of viewers.
Nobody, yeah. Well, there are no commercials. You know.
So Richard, I'd like to ask you just a couple of questions.
Yes, sir.
Real quick. Could you go through the organization of your shelter as far as your staff?
Yes, executive director, deputy director, who was with me last year, Michael Wessel. And in all fairness, Michael operates the shelter. My focus is strategic planning, thinking out of the box, and raising the rest of the money to pay down our debt. We have around $350,000 left on our mortgage. And of course, we're probably underperforming revenue-wise by $100,000. So that's my focus. I don't get involved with vans that broke in the middle of the night, or who got pregnant, I mean, who is sick, and all of that. I can't deal with that. So it's really Michael and me. And last year I asked the board to allow Michael to directly report to them as well as a mentoring exercise and maybe as a planning ahead exercise. And we're blessed. I mean, it's really going well. We have 3 mid-level managers, $40,000 to $45,000 salaries, volunteer coordinator, adoption coordinator, and medical tech coordinator. And then, of course, we have 2 animal control. I have a director of animal control, Eric Reynolds. Eric is really overseeing all of the animal care because of his knowledge and whatnot. And we have 2 animal control officers. and we have 5 full-time animal care techs, and maybe 1 part-time. We're able to keep, for the last 2 years, able to keep our staffing cost, other than COLA and a little bit of boosting morale and certain needs, because our volunteer program is becoming more and more robust. And these are not volunteers coming in and wanting to walk dogs, just walk dogs or pet cats. These are, we have many volunteers, and that's great for all of those listening. But we actually have volunteers that do the work right now of at least 1 40-hour employee and 1 20-hour employee collectively, and doing hard work, cleaning and feeding and whatnot. So that program is going to be growing because that's our labor force.
My second question, are the vehicles that were purchased or funded, I'm assuming by the county back in 2013, 14, whenever that was?
Yes.
They were actually purchased outright, they weren't leased vehicles or anything?
No, and they're titled in our name and all of that. And when I did begin a conversation with the county late last year, it was recommended that we consider the leasing approach, or is it more fiscally? And I just got the report today, so I have no idea.
Dan, come up, maybe you might be able to shed some light on, so.
Nice to meet you.
Good to meet you.
The question is it worth the county exploring a leasing option? And we started leasing, I believe, in 2018, somewhere in that range. So when you originally got those vehicles, they would have been pre the enterprise relationship with the county, back when we used to pay outright for vehicles when we needed them. So Dan has looked into leasing options.
Yeah, we looked at, originally we were talking about a transit van, and then it switched more to a F-150 with a bed cap. The costing on it is basically equivalent between the 2 different types of vehicles, but I have them at right about, with the bed cap on the truck, it would be about $55,000, or about $950 a month lease. That is also, I should also say, and we haven't discussed this idea, but
3-year lease, Dan?
5
5.
year. The county is in the process right now. I think we have 18 vehicles on my lot that were all recently appraised, and I'm waiting on the appraisal numbers before they go to get sold. As we get the FY25 orders in, we'll be looking to get those appraised and get those resold. That's kind of the philosophy behind the leasing program, is that we have them for 5 years, we pay it down substantially, and then we sell them before the value really starts to fall off. It could be a candidate for potential sale or donation or something if we have an appropriate, like a county roads vehicle that's in decent condition with maybe 50 to 70,000 miles on it. The trade-in could be, would be maybe 12,000, 15,000, something like that. Off the top of my head, I'm making up numbers, but we could do a cost benefit to see if it would make sense to go sell or donate one of our vehicles coming off of our lot as opposed to getting a new one itself. And we'd be talking about, the purpose of the leasing program is 5-year rotation of vehicles. So it would be a vehicle about 5 years old with, like I said, 50 to 70,000 on it. It wouldn't get them the same life as a new vehicle, obviously, but that could be something on the table as well.
Do we have any F-150?
I don't believe there's any on my lot today. We have ordered several 150s and 250s this year. So I expect within the next couple months, we'll have them become more available.
Didn't the Parks and Rec have an extra van or something?
No.
No?
Do you remember the details about the van?
They wanted to replace a van.
Right.
And Enterprise will not lease us a vehicle that has 10 or more passenger capacity that will be used to transport minors. That falls under some school bus regulation type thing. So we ended up we ended up renting for the 8-week program, renting 2 vans, and that was a net savings for the year.
Because we only need them during.
Yeah, no, that
certain
makes
times
sense.
of year.
I love the efficiency.
Yep.
Use that word.
Absolutely.
But I thought she had a van out there. I don't know why I thought she had a van out there. She didn't use much or something. I don't know why.
They did. I think they may have gotten rid of that.
Okay.
About 18 months ago. It needed new brakes and a couple other things, and it was like, well, we were talking about replacing it at the time anyways. They ended up getting rid of that and doing a full rental program instead.
So I guess, Richard, if we were able to find something that we're going to be turning back in that is in good shape and meets your needs, would that be?
As long as it's clean, polished, yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is the first,
Yeah,
we're just
this
talking
was-
about this. We have a shiny and new shelter. Well, we have a new shelter. It's less shiny now. But, yeah, I mean, if we could, we just need new vehicles. If it would help the county and the shelter to maybe experiment and see how one of those needs happens.
But at the same time, I really think that maybe, and it's obviously going to be your choice, but that we should allow you to probably take part in this leasing program that the county has, and that way you'll never get into a situation like you're in now. Well, the one vehicle here has 171,000 miles on it. The other one has 140 on it. But, you know, do you have any idea how many miles you put on per month? Or does it, it varies, I guess?
It really does vary. I can get, I mean, we could pretty much, the vehicles were new when we received them, so
10 years old.
we can,
About 10
if you
years old.
divide it by.
12,000 miles a year.
Yeah, it's probably, one gets used more. And I tried to even see if we could do with only one, but we can't, because we are on call 24/7. And so one of our officers, we rotate, they work 7 days on call, and they are allowed to take a vehicle home so that they can respond. So we can't do without 2 vehicles, but I'm willing to go used.
Sure. And I can see exactly what vehicles are available now, what will be coming up in the next month or two, the condition, the age, the mileage, the value, to do that cost-benefit analysis. And if we were to lease a vehicle, I assume it would be set up in the same way that the public school system is, where they would be a partner to our agreement, but contracted directly with the animal shelter.
Well, I left that out of our operating budget, any lease payments, so
Get back to work. Get that red pencil, pen.
could I,
Well,
I'll show you my notebook.
I think with, knowing that that's on the table, we don't need to amend any submissions or anything like that, but basically, what I'm hearing is, if we go the lease route, you'll need an allocation to pay for the lease.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, if we identify something that
Would be a
we're
good
going to be
fit.
turning in, and it makes sense. I mean, I heard 55,000 annually.
55,000 would be the total vehicle.
For total vehicle.
Yeah,
For the total vehicle, yeah.
Approximately $1,000.
$950 a month.
About
Yeah.
$1,000 a month. Right.
Yeah, so.
The lease
You know, if-
is $57,000 is what,
It's ridiculous, the pricing is
for the
ridiculous.
5 years,
Yep.
as opposed to purchasing.
Right.
And I think Dan said that the cab part, if you have a 150 and we need to buy it's around $3,500.
That's what I would expect, yeah.
And while I used my $24,000 donation that was for this, we do have an offer on one of our vans with a landscaping company. and we could take that money and pay for the cab, so it wouldn't change. I mean, if there's.
If there's an available
I mean,
150.
we'll work very
retrofit
close.
it.
I would like, though, to expedite at least one of those vehicles.
Understood.
You scare me with cost analysis in 1 or 2 months, so.
Okay.
I think at least one, but you can afford some gray hair.
Anything else?
No, I think we'll figure something out.
Thank you, Commissioners, Mrs. Heller.
Thank you again for what you do and your staff.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure, Thank you. It is.
I knew he was going to make me smile.
It wouldn't be Richard if he didn't. Nothing.
And do you have something else?
I can comment that I was this morning out at Sharptown Bulkhead. That is a capital request item. I think it's about $90,000 for replacement of the bulkhead at that drop-off center. I was evaluating it with an engineer this morning, and I think that there is a phased approach we can take to that project, including some engineering design that could be reused year over year. I could cut that down to $15,000 to $20,000 as opposed to 90, which is the current ask. So I wanted to report that in as well, but I can certainly email Pat and get specifics to it.
I see her back there working.
Yep. But,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
Pat, would you like to come up and,
Okay, how's that going?
oh, I'm sorry.
Yes.
I just, you don't have to.
No, I stopped there after Sharptown. Yep, the sheeting should be finished today. The electrician has begun their work. The finger piers are really, they have the tiebacks wrapping up as well. They've submitted a request through this Saturday. I could conceivably see it taking one additional week beyond that. But they are accruing a daily penalty in the meantime. They understand that. So it's in progress. We're seeing, 6 to 7 days a week of work out there. So it's progressing.
Thank you.
Yep.
Pat, you want to come up and maybe give us an overview of where we're at this point?
Can we do the order off from here? So in the overview section, you should have a recap of what happened as a result of last time. And you can take a look at where we are. So in your folder is just the R?
Or sign on as a hearing friend. You actually have to sign on. That's what I did earlier. All right, let me get you a mic. It's gonna take a minute for her to log on. So bear with us.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know, it's been slow up in our office too, I'm not quite sure what. Okay.
Okay. So, when we met last week, we made, I guess, just under $1 million worth of changes. We talked about the public schools and, I guess, the half million. So we had that. We had, there were 4 items in the capital projects budget that were moved out to FY '27. And then there was a couple that were pulled back into '25, and we made some personnel decisions. So if you look at all those together, we took just about $985,000 out. Oops. And so our revenues have remained unchanged. We still have 2.3 million in new revenue. On the expenditure side, our budget's down to 71.6 million, which still exceeds our revenues by 4.6 million. If we look at the overall fund balance, our available fund balance is still that 12.8 million. And if we look at the breakdown that we've been focusing on about the, oops,
So we did earmark some of the fund balance.
The final numbers, I don't believe we did. We threw out a couple of numbers, but to the best of my recollection, we didn't finalize.
to move to capital projects? Is that what you?
Yeah, we had
So
talked about
we had
taking
talked
10
about-
million.
Yeah, we
Yes,
talked
we
about
have.
taking 10 million.
And I wasn't sure that we had, and that was one of the things we wanted to revisit today. Wanted to look at where we ended up again and just confirm that, because we had kind of talked about a couple of different figures with that. So we can certainly do that today.
And for the folks that might be listening, I mean, we're doing this in an effort to safeguard the funds for some of the capital projects that we see in the
Correct.
future.
We have 2 or
Such as the middle
3
school,
very large projects.
the
yes.
regional jail project, which we know we're going to have to allocate and
Yes.
probably still borrow some, some money
Mm-hmm.
to fulfill, exactly what we need to do.
So if we're comfortable with that $10 million figure, what that would actually be is a transfer out of the
I'm sorry.
The Queen Anne's Technical Building at Chesapeake College was
And
another
the
one.
150 for that, yeah.
But you can go ahead and allocate the $1 million for the renovation as well. It won't happen next year, but
yeah. And I mean,
it's in the
the
imminent
10 million
horizon.
in total does not have to be specifically earmarked by project. I mean, it can just be earmarked for, I mean, you can get specific if you'd like to.
It can
but
always be moved back.
I can, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, maybe that's a conversation when all 3 of us are here and
Yeah.
and we can maybe agree on exactly what amount should be set aside. Or
Okay.
earmarked for capital.
And it's still moving. We haven't been through the total capital budget yet. That was kind of on the agenda. It'll be on the agenda for the next meeting. So once we've gone through the capital, then that might tweak that number around about what's available on the non-recurring side. So, there may be more dollars available there. So where we ended up was, we have a surplus on the non-recurring side of 13,150,000, and we have a deficit on the recurring side of 326,000. So the total surplus is 12.8. So that's where we ended up after last week's changes. So, and again, if we look at where the recurring options are, it's basically in the funding to the public schools, the salaries and benefits or personnel side of the budget, or the operating. And so those will be the areas, I guess, that we focus on in next week's conversations.
Well, I watched the Board of Ed meeting last night. Not in its entirety, but the budget portion especially. I know Commissioner Fithian had mentioned to Dr. McComas that maybe they should utilize their $500,000 contingency or rainy day fund.
Yes.
And to me, after thinking about it, and I don't know how Albert feels or anybody else, but that's just going to create a monster for next year. I mean, the blueprint, which is supposed to be the fix-all, and we all know that it's going to be difficult to fund from time to time. We're mandated, the commissioners are mandated to allocate $815,000,
Correct.
maintenance of effort, basically, which fulfills our mandated responsibility. We certainly want to do what's right for the students and our teachers and the overall educational system. And in all fairness to our superintendent, she was dealt this hand because of the COVID years that the administration at the time received $15.8 million in COVID dollars, which funded a lot of very needed programs, I'm sure, for the students during that pandemic. But what they failed to do, in my view, and I'm not being critical, is that they failed to, when they took that $15.8 million for those special programs that were needed, they didn't have a sunset on them. In other words, they didn't downsize or right-size, as the superintendent refers to it today. And that's unfortunate. And as a result, we find ourselves in a very bad situation because now we're looking at potential job losses as a result of that. I don't believe that taking that $500,000 and utilizing it is going to serve us very well for next year. We already know next year is going to be probably $1.6 million, $1.7 million. And if that's the case, that $500,000 is going to put it up almost to $2 million because it's going to be reoccurring, a reoccurring cost.
On our side?
I'm sorry?
On our side, you mean?
No, on her
On-
side.
On her side, yeah,
On her side.
yeah.
So it's tough, but I mean, you either do it now or you're going to have to do it next year. And
The thing too, I think, is that might soften it a little, is this year will probably come in under budget. So there probably will be some money going back into their fund balance. It's impossible to say how much. I'm sure they do the
They-
same
yeah.
calculations we do, but if that 500 were to go in, it would probably be replaced to some degree by whatever they came in under budget this year. So there'd be a little bit there.
Well, see, I think she'll have a better handle on what it's going to look like after May 12th.
Okay.
My gut feeling right now, and I'm still thinking about this, that if the mandate's 815,000 for this year to meet the mandate of the blueprint, and we know it's going to be probably $1.6 million or $7 million next year, that we need to be very, very cautious about any additional dollars above the 815,000. Because it's going to be reoccurring for us,
Yes.
or for her too. So, you have any thoughts, Albert?
No, I agree with what you're saying. And I do think that if we take the 500 this year, I mean, it's just going to be, it's going to be there
You're
again
kicking the
next year.
can down the road.
It's going to be there year after year after year. I mean, So you take it now or take it later. I mean, hopefully they come in under budget and if it does get used, they come in under budget and they can, have that little cushion there for when they need it. I mean, like we said last week, we're gonna have to, we gotta do what we have to do irregardless. I mean, if they get in trouble, have to spend, make repairs or do something, we're gonna have to step up and dip into wherever it is we have to dip into to take care of whatever problems come up. I certainly appreciate the board and her wrestling with this budget, and I know it's certainly not easy for anybody when you get talking about, eliminating or doing away with positions. Certainly none of us want to see that, but at the same time, if it's right sizing, I think that it's something that we're going to have to do. I think that the county, and I don't think that there's a whole lot out there, but I mean, I think the county, we've been doing a pretty good job of making sure that the county is right-sized in all of our departments. I mean, I think that that's, so hopefully we don't have to, moving forward, do make some of those tough decisions. I mean, all of these decisions are tough. I mean, it's not, none of it's easy.
Well, I was listening to the meeting last night also, and I just want to make this comment or whatever. One of the board members said some things that I think was they were misinformed. They were very critical about the efforts being put forth for economic development and housing here in the county. And this particular board member, I only wish that maybe he would reach out to one of us or whatever, so we could maybe share with him exactly what the county has in the future for this, for the housing. And I mean, we've got the village of Kennedyville that we're getting ready to put out for bid. And we have the Millington project that we're trying to get the infrastructure there with the wastewater plant. There are some very good things that are happening. Unfortunately, it takes a while for those things to develop. But, the other thing that, and I would encourage this board member, and I know he knows who he is, if he'd like to call me, he can certainly call me or email me, and I'd be happy to meet with him and kind of catch him up on the status of what's going on in the county, because I think he was very misinformed. But, the other thing that the superintendent is dealing with is the steady decline of student enrollment, which is affecting our state funding. So hopefully some of this new housing and maybe some economic development here and there will bring in some young families and offset that. I think they project in 2029 is when they're going to start to hopefully see a increase in student enrollment.
Yeah.
The other thing too is if the state comes through down the road, and I hope they do, with the middle school project, that might be inspiring to some folks to come here and have their children go to the new middle school. And so all these things are, I don't have a crystal ball, nobody does, but these are things that I think are positive for our county. And at some point, I think they will happen.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Unfortunately, it just takes a lot of time and a lot of money to do for it to happen.
Okay.
So that 301 might be back at 801.
I was going to say, if you'd
It'll
like
be
me
up
to
to the
make,
superintendent, but I don't know that there's a lot of appetite on their part, and at least mine at the current moment, to, I mean, if they have to, yes, yes, they will replenish some of that. But using that's only going to create a real monster for us next year.
so would you like me to make any changes this week or resume the conversation beginning of next work session?
I think we can leave it like it is for now and see what the superintendent comes in with.
Okay.
But what I heard from President McGee last night is that she asked Dr. McComas directly if she had any indication from the commissioners where we were. And that's why I'm kind of going through this now, because I'm sure she's listening. And I applaud her for what she's done. She's done a great job. And she's got some tough choices to make in order to balance the budget. And we're going to do our part with the mandate, or at least I am. And I think everyone, well, I know the three of us will do our part with the mandate. But what happens beyond that, it's going to be tough to do.
Yeah, it's definitely a challenge.
And I know I've been a little redundant, but I want the message to be loud and clear that this is kind of where we're at right now, unfortunately. Now, I will say this, if there's one-time money, and she tells me that there's not, in my conversations with her, that maybe we would be able to help there with a one-time funding request for
I
a
think they had
particular project, but they don't really have anything.
They had a very small amount in their capital, I think.
Right.
Like 15,000.
Yeah, very small.
Yeah.
So, having said that about the schools, the next thing there's salary and benefits. You know, I'm not comfortable making a decision on that without Ronnie being here or Commissioner Fithian. I still would like to see the 4% salary increase remain in there for our county employees until the very end, and we'll have to see what we have to do. The other salary requests,
And that was some of what you had talked about last week with in, out. That's the summary of.
That's what's left in.
okay.
And then as far as the operating, we've kind of looked at the running rates. I've reached out to several of the department heads. The number came in lower than is on here after speaking with department heads and hashing through some of the numbers. And then there are also new initiatives that are requested in the operating budgets this year. So there's new programs, and so we need to, review that section of the budget in the next workshop. To see which of those new initiatives you'd like to leave in versus take out. And then the capital is the remaining thing. We need to walk through the capital. So those are kind of the areas, but the operating and the personnel and the public schools are the numbers that will affect the reoccurring. Or repairs and maintenance, that big number in the transfer is for repairs and maintenance out at water, wastewater, and I think we've kind of been through those. But we could certainly take a look at them again. So that's kind of what's on the schedule for the next workshop.
Yeah, the only thing we can do with that number would be just to, and I know we've kind of beat Dan over the head with that number, is just to see what we can kick down the road a year or two is all we can, it's got to happen. It's,
And I think we moved 4 of those things out.
Right,
So,
right.
we can look at it again.
Well, that's,
But that's kind of what's left. So that's kind of what we'll be walking through next work session.
and the new positions are all,
There's 4 EMTBs and a school resource officer.
right. I was going to say public safety.
Right. So, the school resource officer position, which is going to be a contractual position. And with my previous knowledge of finding the right person to take a position like that, refresh my memory, is it like $75,000 with benefits contractual for 9 months?
Yeah, I
Roughly.
can pull it up. The biggest part that we might be able to save here is the health insurance, and I think that's kind of the thing that we've already taken
That's
the
what I
pension
thought.
out of it. The health insurance that's in here is probably somewhere around $20,000. So there's probably about 20, if you were to find somebody that was already retired or already had a health benefit, the number might be able to go down by about $20,000.
Well, I would like to give the sheriff the opportunity to advertise that position, to see what type of response he gets for that.
Right.
And if he finds the right person, which I know it's going to be difficult because I've done it before and they're just not out there.
Right.
But if he is successful, then I think maybe even though we would maybe already have an approved budget, we'd have a contingency fund if we had to use it.
You could approve it after the budget cycle has
But I
concluded.
would like to see him move forward with maybe advertising it
To see what he can,
to see what he can
right.
generate. And if he generates the right person for the position before the budget is adopted, then we can address it then. But if not, we might have to do it from contingency. I'm a firm believer in what he wants to do. I think it's the right thing to do because of the location of that school.
Yeah,
And not
unfortunately.
that it's in a bad area. I'm not
No, no,
I'm
no,
not
no,
no.
indicating that. It's just that
It's,
It's in an outlying
it's,
area.
it's an
right,
outlying area that where the response might not be as
swift.
swift.
Yeah.
Regarding the EMTs, I know they're asking for 4, because they want to be able to provide 24-hour coverage,
Right.
to at least get an ambulance out. We might have to think about, and I know it's going to create a problem for you, Pete, and for the chief, of cutting that back to 2 and trying to utilize part-timers as much as possible, but
It's also a little bit of a
it's
numbers game.
just something to think about.
Sure, it's a little bit of a numbers game in that, I mean, historically speaking, we know when the high volume occurs in that part of the county with second homeowners coming into town for seasonal times and the camps being in session. So, I mean, it's definitely a numbers game. It's a little bit of a gamble, but I think it could be focused at certain times of the year, where you're using maybe more part-time during those times and staffing it. I don't know whether there's more call volume during the day or at night or whatever the rest of the year, but it's possible that could be reviewed.
Yeah, we'll bring it all back. I mean,
Yeah, I think that, I would like to keep it in there for now, with the idea that we might have to trim it back to 50% of what their request is in order to make it work.
So you want the SRO taken out, knowing that it might go back in, and leave the 4 EMTBs for now, knowing it's on the table. Is that correct?
Will Sheriff Hickman be coming in at any point?
You can ask him to. Whenever you want.
I really don't want to take it out. I'd like to leave it in there for now But when we get to the very end here, that might be something that we do take out with an agreement that if he finds somebody that
Do you-
we'll fund it from contingency.
Do you want him to start advertising now, is what I thought I heard you say?
What do you think, Al?
Well, what is there,
I don't think it hurts to go ahead and put it out there and see what kind of response he gets. I mean, I want to support his.
there's no
initiative.
liability of us doing that?
Oh, no, not at all. Because even if he finds a great candidate, then the bottom falls out of the budget, I mean, at that point, the position could be cut, and, I mean, so there's zero risk here.
Yeah, and I
Yeah,
would
as long as
think,
there's no liability, I'm
No.
fine with him advertising.
yeah, and I think then maybe by the end of the process, we'll have a good feel for what type of candidate is out there, and that might help with the decision-making process. So,
Because that number could just be pretty much salary.
yeah, if we find that person, yes,
If you find the right one.
correct.
And what is the hourly rate that,
So let me
paying-
call up that schedule, because, let's see. So, I'd have to, yeah, I don't have the hours and the hourly rate, but that is the annual salary. So like I said, the benefit number, if you took the health insurance out of that, you're probably looking at taking $20,000 out of the benefit side. I'm struggling to remember, I think it's 1,400 and some hours, if I'm not mistaken.
now, Pat, is that salary figured on a 12-month employee or?
No,
a
it's
nine-
figured, no.
9 months?
No, 9 months. And there was also some talk about whether we could, have an existing CO certified. I don't know if you're-
It's been nixed.
It's been nixed, okay.
Yeah, that to me is a good common sense approach, but unfortunately, in order to
Logistically.
do that, you have to have a special police commission.
Gotcha.
And the special police commission now says that you have to be a certified police officer.
I mean, the
That
option,
certification in order to get the special police commission, which has obviously been changed because that's not the way it used to be.
and the option to this would be to hire a full-time deputy, and the price tag would go up, because then you would have full-time benefits and pension.
So the school resource officer has to be certified? And the certification has to be,
Well, it depends on how you do it.
Okay.
I mean, if they're certified, you could hire them as a 12-month employee.
right,
A
right.
full-fledged deputy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Where they would work at the school and then come back to the sheriff's office
sure.
and work.
But
the
I just
summer.
mean if we found somebody retired, their certification has to be valid?
They have to have a valid certification. And it's good for 3 years, if I remember correctly.
That's why I was asking, I didn't know what, I knew it was.
Once they
a-
leave employment.
Right, right.
So we're looking for a retired police officer. is what we're
Right.
looking for.
Right,
Hopefully with health insurance.
yeah, yeah, hopefully with health insurance. So if anybody out there,
So I think we'd maybe ask him to go ahead and advertise it and just see what comes out of it.
Okay. All right. So we'll bring back, like I said, the other areas to go through next week. If there's anything else you want me to look at, please let me know.
I don't really have anything else to do.
no, not really.
I think it was our intention to go through all this
Right,
today
right.
and to kind of stay here until we got pretty much through it. But with Commissioner Fithian being ill, and we hope he gets better soon,
Real soon.
not that Albert and I couldn't do it,
Yeah.
because we could, but I really
Yeah, I'd love, I,
would like to have all three of us here
Absolutely.
making these tough decisions.
Yeah.
Okay.
If that makes sense. So, Director Landon, do you have anything you'd like to offer, or you've been listening?
I'll work with Chief Quinn to make whatever resources remain available for, could be hybrid coverage, sliding coverage, but
We certainly don't want to put any citizen at risk.
Agreed.
Right.
And I know you actually feel the same way, so.
well, okay, with the resources we have available, ensuring our coverage is maximized.
Dan, do you have anything you'd like to offer, or?
Like I said, we can continue to evaluate the capital requests, and look to what can be deferred in future years. I was working with Pat yesterday to get some of our operating costs, down as well, so we're
Yeah, the department heads have been very quick and responsive with helping to look at the operating, and so I thank all of them for that.
Yeah.
Anyone else have anything they'd like to offer?
I'm sure we have an announcement of some large grants coming in.
I will continue to look for any.
By the way, you're doing a great job.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Great job.
We did, last week, receive a response to our request for federal earmark from Senator Van Hollen's office. Joanne and I workshopped a response. We got that in last week, so seeing some positive momentum. I think it's highly unlikely we get the entire project financed through any one funding source, but we are getting some traction on the earmark request we made about a month ago.
Good.
Okay, and I guess we'll make that one change, I guess the Sharptown project, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, Michael, I saw you got your hand up.
I agree with the public school situation. That 500,000 that she's got sitting there, I would suggest that for fiscal year '26, there are a lot of unknowns in terms of cost of goods, cost of services. She's down to the absolute bare minimum. If you take a look at that line item budget, her budget book, you've got more decreases than you do increases. She has done an excellent job on this. There are some line items that have no entry for fiscal year '25, but an entry for fiscal year '26. And my summation, my presumption, when I went through all 46 pages of that line item budget, was that these are line item of expenses in fiscal year '25, but they had no money allocated for them. And so they were borrowing from other budget line items to fill that void. Now she created a line item for this fiscal year '26, and that's why you may see nothing in fiscal year '25, but you got a heck of a number in fiscal year '26. She is basically right-sizing everything, and she's including things where they belong. They have no room here. If they have an unexpected price increase in anything, that should be where they go for that with that $500,000. That's their cushion. If the county takes that away, then they're going to nickel and dime you guys every time they get a price increase. And
Well,
that's
I
crazy.
think, right, and I think that I don't know how efficient that would work for them having to come and, present that.
Yeah.
Maybe every week or every other week or once a month or
Right.
whatever.
I think the thing, or the question to ask is, I'm sure they do the same exercise we do, where they are really scrutinizing the current year, and what's their guess at where they're gonna land.
Right.
Because we factor it into our budget, and I'm sure they factor it into theirs. So, I think that would be a crucial question in how tight they're gonna be,
Right.
is where they expect to finish this year. So, and I'm sure they're looking at that.
So let's just say that they have $400,000 that they're not going to spend
Right.
in FY '25. And that's going to go into the rainy day fund.
Right.
So now they're going to have 900,000.
Correct. And that's how we got to how the number grows, if it's
Right.
not.
Right.
So somewhere there's a happy medium where you know what's coming in, you know what you have, and you have that little recurring amount that you can kind of plug little holes with.
Right.
not big holes.
Right.
The only thing that I would want to be very guarded about is that if that's the case, and they have $400,000 or $500,000 that they're going to be moving into their rainy day fund at the end of FY '25, if they were to utilize the 500, is there a way legally that that's not considered a reoccurring cost for the commissioners? In other words, use it this year, but we're not obligated next year.
You're never obligated to replenish that. That is not part of the formula whatsoever. Right now, in FY '25, they are scheduled to use 2.4 of what their existing fund balance is. So anything that they come in under budget, you had said, for example, if they don't use 400,000, that is 400,000 that is not going to be spent really, for all intents and purposes, of the 2.4 million that they have budgeted to use. The scary part in what I just said is none of that money is recurring. I mean, so as we've seen, they've pulled in, what is it that they're going to use, what they're estimating to use in FY '25 of the fund balance, 1.7?
Well, they had
Remember?
1.7, but then remember, they came in at the beginning of the year and asked to use an additional 700.
No, it's 1 million.
It's
That's
1
right,
million.
it's 1 million from this year's
It's
fund
1
balance.
million, and they have placed that whole 1
Right.
million into their FY '26 budget. So the only thing that remains is
Yep.
that 500,000. But I think, like I said, I think we do, we do a really serious look at the current year to see what we think our fund balance position is. I'm sure they've probably done the same thing. It's just worth a question, and maybe there's no room there at all. It could be that they're really tight this year and there's nothing, or it could be that they're projecting to come in. Usually they've never gone over budget. Same way we just don't
Right.
go over budget. So we all usually come in a little bit.
And by law, they have to ask you to change money from one of those major categories to another, and that includes fund balance. So, I mean, they don't, they bundle them together and come in once or twice a year and ask for approval. But they have to ask you for that money anyway, even if it's out of their own fund balance.
So I was always under the impression that, and I'm going to refer to it as maintenance of effort. We know the 815's good.
They did, yeah.
Yeah. And if they utilized 500 from the rainy day fund, and does that increase our,
Maintenance of that.
So maintenance of effort is no longer, and it's going to be a mindset that's really hard for all of us to not think about. How they built their minimum local effort, how the state has built minimum local effort for those that are in the minimum local effort category now, is you take the students, and there's X amount of dollars per student, and then if they are considered in the poorer students, they get an extra allocation for those. If they are English as a second language, and an extra for that. So you can think of it almost as zero-based budgeting. Now, the maintenance of effort it's
The
done.
blueprint has eliminated that.
Correct, it's completely eliminated that, and now they're truly taking the number of students and then building the costs so that you get to your minimum local effort. So if you give an extra, let's say we use your 500, it doesn't get baked into the formula year over year anymore, where it would have in the past.
That's fine.
Versus,
I'm good.
right.
I'm good, but I do think it would be good to try to get a projection of what they think they're not going to spend
Yeah,
before any decisions are made.
Right, you said, and the closer, we just reevaluated all of our projected numbers, because now we have 9 months actual. The closer that we get to the year, the better our projections are going to be. So I'm sure they probably rerun their exercise, with more current information, so I'm not sure how often they do it.
There's basically 2 months left of the fiscal
Yeah,
year,
so
so
we
they
should-
probably have a really good idea
Yeah.
of where they're going to come
Do you
in.
think we could try to get that by next Tuesday? with our
I can reach
projections?
out, sure.
It might be helpful.
Absolutely.
Michael, you have something else?
Yeah, as an addendum to what I was going to talk about. So the reduction in force that she's talking about, the reduction in teachers, would not affect class population drastically. It would go from their average right now, I think it's 15 or 17, and it would increase to 22. According to Dr. McComas, you could increase that to 27 and still not have that adversarial effect on the number of students per teacher ratio in a class.
And that's for the secondary classrooms in particular.
Right. And she's okay with that, you know, and she points out that regardless of the class size, it really is, teaching is as a proponent of the teacher coming across. You know, how good is the teacher? You know, when I'm older than anybody else in this room, and I'm a World War II baby. When I went to school, I remember classes that we had 54 kids in them. And we got taught. As a matter of fact, my math class was 54 students, and I'm still pretty good with my numbers. So it all
There's
depends.
a big difference though, Mike.
Huh?
Your teacher, there's a big difference. Your teacher could also come around and make sure that you weren't disrupting the
I
class.
put that on last night.
You know,
Yeah. It's
Corporal
teacher,
punishment.
respect for the teacher.
Oh, they have paddles?
right, I'm just saying, you know, these teachers are, you know, they have one of the most
They get their
difficult
hands
jobs
full.
in the world, in my opinion. And they do a great job at it. Thank God they're there, and
Oh, yeah.
thank God they love to do what they're doing.
Okay.
But I'm just saying, I
I
you
went to
know,
the school in the 1950s compared to now. It's a totally
Right.
different atmosphere.
right, right.
Without a doubt.
right,
But at the
Parenting,
same
parenting
time-
has changed.
Absolutely.
Parenting has changed.
yeah.
Yeah, well, my
not
mother
for the
knew,
best.
my mother and father knew what the hell I did wrong, what the heck I did wrong by the time I got home. And it wasn't the teacher's fault, it was my fault.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, whatever you did
Right,
wrong,
right.
you did wrong, and they knew about it before I got home. Look,
Yeah.
that's then. But the teacher-student ratio per classroom, she's voiced it last night, she's okay. If they have to increase it, they may have to reduce their teacher allocation, and I'm sorry, teachers, if you're listening, but it has to be up to 44. In order to make up this, in order to make up that other $800,000, she has to increase it from 36 teachers to 44 teachers. She thinks she has 26 confirmed in retirement. And she will know more by May 12th, unfortunately, because that's the deadline for for the teachers to let them know whether they're going to retire or not. So there's a little ambiguity here. There's some space between when you guys need to know your numbers, when she is going to make her presentation next Tuesday, because the board is voting on her budget Monday night. Tuesday night, she's going to make her presentation, but she really won't know the true numbers until May 12th, which is the next week.
Right.
So there's still some fluff in here that has to be played with. But overall, she can't anticipate, and the Board of Education needs to anticipate, that they're going to have to take a look at reducing the number of teachers by 44. That's the reality of it. If you plan on that, and then if it's anything else, well, okay then that's good. But plan for worst case scenario here. And the worst case scenario is 44. In order to make up the $800,000 difference. Do it. Plan for it. Get it done, you know. And if it doesn't happen, and if miraculously you've got some other money coming in, and your audited budget shows a larger rainy day fund or budget surplus, okay, fine. But you're going to need that for next year. Because next year, according to the Department of Legislative Services, without her budget increase, just going by mandated amounts, she would be asking next year for $2.5 million more on mandates. By looking at 21,999, which is what she's asking for this year, basically 22 million. I mean, she's like $500 off of 22 million. You're looking at 22 million from what would be required as mandated. And okay, now she's going to be asking for 1.7 million. Again, according to the Department of Legislative Services projections, which have been wrong. But those are the only numbers that we have to go with. This increases every year. It's 1.7 fiscal year 27, 1.4 fiscal 28, 1.5 fiscal '29, and fiscal '30 is 2.5 million. That's the year-to-year increase that the Department of Legislative Services has projected here that she's going to ask for more money. And we have a reduction in student population, which just exasperates the whole situation. This is a no-win situation, unfortunately. It's really bad. It's really bad.
Well, I think and thank goodness for all of your hard work, and you must never sleep because you're reading all the time. But as you've said in the past, I think what really gets lost in the weeds here is people hear that 1.8 million or 1.7 or whatever it is, and they forget that last year they asked for that, and it's in there.
It's a cumulative
It's
total.
in there, right? I mean, that's,
It's a cumulative total.
right,
That's how Pat came up with her 11.9 million last year.
right,
You know, that's the year-to-year increase
right.
on Kerwin.
But I'm saying, I just think that people, I think people that you.
11.9 million increase,
Yeah.
which equated, Pat, correct me if I'm wrong, that was a 35 or 36 cent increase in the real estate tax rate to pay for that.
It was somewhere in that neighborhood.
Yeah, because you were using $360,000 as the equivalent to 1 cent of real estate tax.
It was based on last year's numbers, so,
Right, on-
yeah.
Based on last
So
year,
with
this year
the-
it's a little bit more. So, yeah, this is, it's crazy. We've all used that word, this is crazy. And now you have the state in its structure, we're in a structural deficit here.
Absolutely.
No two ways about it. And so is the state. My fear is, how much more expenses is the state gonna shift down to the county level to balance their budget? These are unknowns. We have no idea. Try to plan for the worst-case scenario is what I have done all my life in building fiscal budgets and building business plans. And if the worst case doesn't come out, okay, you're that much further along and better off than what you had planned. And basically, that's what we have to do. What's the worst-case scenario? The worst-case scenario is, if you're listening, Superintendent and Board of Education, you're not going to get that $800,000. So plan on a reduction in force of 44 teachers. That's the bottom line. As much as that hurts, and as much as teachers are going to say, am I going to lose my job? Well, yeah, okay. We have a situation here. You can't keep on raising taxes because our economy can't handle it. Our taxpayers can't handle it. The reality is Pat's numbers, it's a 36 cent increase in your real estate tax in order to pay for the blueprint. My number, unfortunately, is over $1 when I take a look at not having Kerwin, not having the blueprint versus having the blueprint. Because the new number now is $55,700,000. That has nothing to do with Pat's number. That is the number now by Department of Legislative Services. Not having Kerwin, if it never existed, versus their new revised projected cost of implementing Kerwin, which they just came out with this January. It was a 28% increase from $43,700,000 to $55,700,000. That's crazy. That's just, if somebody in Annapolis is not looking at this and saying, wait a minute, time out, you know, it would behoove, again, and I have mentioned this in some letters to the editor and also a memorandum and an email that I sent to the Board of Education and Superintendent McComas. The superintendents know what's going on in all 24 jurisdictions. They need to get together and they need to approach the General Assembly. We need to do something about this. MABE needs to get together, right? The Maryland Association of Board of Educations, they need to get together because every one of them has seen that this is unaffordable. Well, the only way that you're going to get the General Assembly to pay attention is if you got big numbers of people saying, hey, this is not going to work. Let's be able to pick and choose what we need. Let's revise this. Let's review this. Let's slow down the implementation. I'm going to get off my soapbox. I'm sorry. You gave me that window of opportunity to talk, and I did.
Well, I think, you know, all the input that we've had here today and the conversations, what I gathered last night from listening to the meeting of the Board of Ed was they wanted to have an idea where the commissioners were thinking, or exactly what we were thinking. So I think that's been loud and clear today.
Yeah.
And hopefully they find that to be helpful. Pat, just real quick before we end, can we go to the allocations for Kent Cultural Alliance and remind me what we did?
I think we left their
think we left
request
it
as
flat.
it was.
We left
I think they were asking for a minimal increase, and I think we left it there. Hold on.
$956 increase.
Yeah, hold on one second.
That's 6.8%. Went from 14,044 to 15,000.
And we decided to leave it flat.
I
I thought I had written some notes in there. Have you changed? No, you haven't.
These get updated as.
But I don't throw
Pat-
the old ones out. If you keep
They're-
digging back,
They're
it's
in the
there.
back, yeah.
So, yes, there was no change. The request was for 15. I believe the comments that we had at the time we looked at it referenced the work that they do for the community and the small amounts, so I think it was just left at the $15,000 request.
Yes.
Right, that's how it's written.
That's, I guess, what I'm recollecting.
And
so.
what about the Humane
The
Society?
Humane Society,
They had a 2.7%.
well, their request was higher, and it was reduced to leaving the equivalent of a salary and benefit increase equivalent to ours, with an asterisk that they may be requesting 2 vehicles, so the vehicle costs are not in here.
Gotcha, right.
But their request was reduced, let's see.
I have,
You have it?
by my notes, I have 15K for the Kent Cultural Alliance, FYI, as a result of the conversation several weeks ago.
So that 15 is still there.
Still there?
Yeah, it's still
yes.
there, yeah.
Okay, so we're,
Yeah, and I have
We're
for the
still good
Humane
with that?
Society.
Yeah,
Yeah, all right.
absolutely.
My note for the
I mean,
Humane
if we kept them
Society
flat, it's going to be 14,
44.
yeah,
right.
Right,
it's
yeah.
another $60.
Right.
is,
So,
the Humane Society was
Right.
flat except for salary increase, knowing
other.
that they were gonna ask for the vans.
Right.
Right, and so we have those figures today, so we can, we'll have to discuss that, I guess, next week as well.
Yeah, and I mean, it comes down to, there are 3 options for those vans. I mean, one is buy them outright, 1 or 2, whatever, buy something outright. And that would come out of county funding. Second option would be allow the leases, let's just say 2, but 1 or 2 leases to go through, but then they need the allocation to cover those costs, to pay for the lease costs. Or number 3, what Dan discussed earlier, potentially recycling a vehicle that we were about to turn in.
Yeah.
Which
So-
isn't a bad idea.
So we'll cost out those 3 options and bring them back
Yeah,
for you
I'm
next
sure,
week.
I mean, I'm hoping that option 3 is the one that I like the best.
Yeah.
in looking at the mileage on these vehicles, and, I mean, it's obvious they need to be replaced,
Right.
so.
And these are, just to reiterate, these are the vehicles that are used for the animal control,
Control, right.
which is the county's responsibility. The rest of the Humane Society initiative really is, it's a charitable initiative, and it's a lovely charitable initiative, but the animal control is by law the county's responsibility. We just subcontract it to our animal care shelter of Kent County.
Okay, so we'll bring those figures back for you.
It seems like we got a lot done today, I don't know.
Well, I think you've crystallized the issues.
Well, we tried.
Yeah.
Anything else for the good of the order? Hearing nothing, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved?
Second, all in favor? Aye. We're adjourned. Thanks, everybody.